Hi everyone and welcome to our webcast. Our presenter today is Renu Muthoo. Renu will be teaching us how to create a turntable animation using Autodesk 3ds Max Design. I'll now pass things over to our presenter. Renu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Corinne. So welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today for today's webcast session. In this session today, I will be talking about animations in 3ds Max Design, and then we will specifically learn how to create a turntable animation. Before we get started, let me introduce myself. As Corinne mentioned, I am Renu Muthoo, and I'm an instructional designer with ASCENT. My main role here is to write and update the training materials, which includes the training guides for the visualization software, which includes Autodesk 3ds Max Design and Autodesk Showcase. In addition to the visualization software, I also work with other Autodesk products, and they are like the AutoCAD Mechanical and AutoCAD Electrical, and I update those training guides as well. So today's focus is on the Autodesk 3ds Max Design, and we will learn to create an animation there. It can also be used with the other flavor of the software, which is the basic 3ds Max. And now the format for today's presentation is that I will be first explaining the topic with the help of the presentation slides that you can see on the screen, and then subsequently follow it up with the actual demonstration in the Autodesk 3ds Max Design 2015 software. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, today's topic that I'll be presenting is how to create a turntable animation in 3ds Max Design. Now, I'm taking the majority of information from our 3ds Max Design course, and I will be presenting parts of Chapter 12 of the Autodesk 3ds Max Design 2015 Fundamentals Training Guide. This is an AOTG title and is developed by ASCENT. And in this chapter, you learn about animation and time controls. And this chapter also deals with walkthrough animation and animation output. But because of time limitations today, I will be talking only about the animation and time controls and then use them to create a turntable animation. So what are animations and how are they created? Now, animations are created by playing back a number of still frames in rapid succession using animation files such as .mov and .avi files. These computer movie formats compile a sequence of still images into a compressed format, keeping track of the changes from frame to frame at a pixel level. So in 3ds Max Design, animations are based on keyframes, which are time indexes at which objects change their position or rotation or scale or a limited number of other object parameters. So in the software, we use the animation controls to create animations. The animation controls are found at the bottom of the screen, and they're found at the bottom of the screen, and they are the time slider and the track bar, and also the other animation controls are grouped together on the side, as you can see on the screen right now. So, so first of all, we'll be talking about the time slider and the track bar. So you can use the time slider to scrub, which means that you can manually move it to advance and reverse along an animation. You can drag it manually and place it at any location along the track bar, and the position of objects at that point are reflected in the viewports. So this is the time slider, and it can be moved manually over the track bar. So the numbers below it are in the time slider. They indicate that the current time or the frame number. So the this track bar also comes with a right-click menu, and that contains the key properties and the controller properties. Now, the other animation controls that are grouped together are along the bottom of the screen. So we will start with the first one. The first button that we see is the Add Animation key. And what this key does, it enables you to manually add an animation key at the time currently shown in the time slider. So then there are those auto key and the set keys. So auto key mode is active. Yes, right now it's only the PowerPoint slides that you will be seeing. So the demonstration will be done later after I finish explaining the different controls and other different controls. And after that, we will have a set time for the demonstration purposes. At that time, you will see the 3ds Max screen. So I was just answering somebody's question that was about they were only able to see my PowerPoint slide. So to go back to the PowerPoint slide, so we have the auto key and the set key mode. So the auto key mode is active when the auto key mode is active, all the movement, that is the movement, the rotation, and the scale changes are automatically stored as keys at the current frame. Set key also does the same thing, but it offers more control over the kind of keys you create through filters. So auto key method is more widely used by design visualizers, and we will be using the auto key method today to create the turntable animation as well. And set key functionality was added primarily for character animators. Then is the previous, play, and next buttons. These enable you to play an animation in your viewports, and they advance to the next or the previous frame or key. Now, when you click play animation, the software plays the animation in the active viewport, and it replaces this icon with the stop animation button. So the play animation button and the stop animation buttons, they toggle between each other. So then is the go to start and go to end buttons. These enable you to move directly to the beginning or to the end of the animation. Then we have the current frame button, which enables you to advance to a specific frame or time in the animation. So for example, whatever you enter here, whatever frame you enter, number you enter, the time slider will jump to that frame in the track bar. Now there is another button that is available in the group of the time controls, and it is the time configuration button. So when you click this button, the time configuration dialog box opens up. Now, I'll be talking about the different options that are provided in this dialog box, and they should be generally, we should start to set them up before you start the animation. So the frame rate area, it provides options to define how many still frames to show per second, which is FPS. And often the best choice for frame rate, it depends on the medium where you intend to play your animation. So, for example, you have the NTSC, which is the National Television Standards Committee. You can generally use that. Or you have the PAL, which is the Phase Alternate Line. This standard is generally used across Europe, and it has 25 frames per second. We also have the film option available, which assigns the frame rate used in film production. Then we have the time display area. And this time display area, it provides options to select how you want to measure time during your animation. So it has options like frames, or SMPTE, which is time in minute, second, and frames. Then we have the frame ticks, which where tick is a unit, and it is 1/4800th of a second. Then we have we have another option, which is the MMSS ticks, which is minutes, seconds, and tick. Then we have the other options, other areas, and one of the areas is the playback area. This provides this playback area. This provides options to control how the animation is played back in the viewports. So it can be in real time, which plays the animation at the real world playback rate. And what happens is sometimes if the animation is very fast, and because it has to keep up with the playback rate, and in the real-time playback mode, it can sometimes skip some frames. So if you do not want to skip frames and play all the frames, then you have to clear this option. Along with this option, like when the real-time option is selected, speed is enabled, and it, as the name specifies, it speeds up or slows down the animation. And so then there is the active viewport only. It limits the animation preview to the active viewport. The options in the animation area, they define the active time segment between the starting and the ending time, which it specifies the current animation length. The key steps area, it provides you with options to limit how and which animation keys are created in a key mode. So we generally leave this use trackbar option enabled and not try to limit the key creation. There is another button along with the time slider and the trackbar, and which is the Open Mini Curve Editor button. So when you click on this button, it replaces both the trackbar and the time slider with the curve editor. And so what it displays is it displays the function curves, which can be modified using the mini curve editor. The curve editor can be used to move, copy, delete, and change the key properties. If you have to apply major editing changes or do advanced modifications then to the animation data, and then it is always recommended to use the proper curve editor or the dope sheet. But for today's purpose, for today's presentation, I will be using the mini curve editor. Now, today's focus is on turntable animations. And what are turntable animations? So turntables are used to show off your model in a 360-degree shot, where we actually do not animate the objects, but instead animate the camera such that it revolves around the object for which we are creating a turntable animation. So while creating a camera, the most important consideration for a turntable is that the target or the point of interest of the camera, which you can see here on the screen, that's the target. So it should be pointing at the object that we are showcasing. So what this does is that it creates an illusion that the viewer is standing still and the target is revolving as if on a turntable. So once we animate the camera to revolve around the object, then we can use the animation controls to slow the movement or move it faster or to incorporate a break at a focal point and so on and so forth. Now, these are the objectives that we will be accomplishing after I demonstrate in the software. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a practice that I have pulled directly from the Chapter 12 of our training guide. And the practice is performed by students in an instructor-led class to reinforce the skills that are being taught in the content, or if you are a self-paced learner, you can use it for similar purpose, that is for practicing the preceding skills learned. So today we are going to set up the camera and the target. We're going to add a dummy object on the building to be used as a pivot point for rotation. We will set up the time and animation controls. We will also set the keyframes to create an animation. We will apply rotation at the keyframes to animate and add interpolation to the keys using the dialog box and the mini curve editor. Now, these are the general workflow steps that are required to create a turntable animation. So they are create a camera with turntable object as target. Then we will create a helper object. We will link the camera with the helper object then. We will also set the time controls. Then rotate the camera at various keyframes to complete one revolution. And then modify the keyframe movement using the right-click menu, and also use the mini curve editor to smooth the animation. So let's go ahead and create a turntable animation in our software, which is the 3ds Max Design 2015 version. So now, as you can see on the screen, I'm sharing with you. So this is the actual 3ds Max Design software and a 2015 version of the software, and I have already opened up a file here which has an exterior of a building. It also shows different lampposts and shows the ground surface. It also shows the parking lot space and things so on and so forth. So what we are going to be doing today is that we are going to create a turntable animation for the exterior of the building. So and it totally depends on the camera and the camera view and the target view we will be getting. So we will, first of all, the first step in creating a turntable animation is that we need to create a camera first. So we will go in the command panel in the Create tab. You go into the Cameras panel here and choose the target. So this will create a target camera. So we want to create a view. The starting view should be at an angle, and so we place the camera here, and the target is the building. So we try to put this, the pivot, the center of the target at the pivot point, which will, at this target point, it will rotate the building. So it is a good practice that this target point should be in the center of the objects which are being, for which the animation is being created. So it's more or less in the center right now. So we can check and see if everything, if the view or the field of view for the camera is all correct. So we go into the perspective view and maybe change it to the camera's one of the camera. So our camera that we placed just now was camera 001. So click on this. So this is what is in the field of view of the camera. So as you can see, we can see the ground surface down here, which we don't want to see. Generally, we want it, the turntable animation, the object should be at an eye level. So we need to move this camera slightly up so that we see the whole building at an eye level and don't see the ground surface just in front of us. So we can just modify that setting by just zooming in the front view and move the camera up. So in the main toolbar, we will just say select and move this camera slightly up. And see, notice in the camera view how the field of view is changing. And I think this view looks good enough for our turntable animation. Also, we will need to move the target slightly up to make it better and get it centered somewhat. So we will go in here to locate the target, but it's kind of, it's kind of difficult to see the target here. So what we can do is we can use the Scene Explorer to locate the target. Now, if many of you who have been already working in the 2015 version of the software, this Scene Explorer is kind of new this year. And here we can select, it works very similar to select by name Select by Name dialog box that we used to open by clicking this button here. But this year, because they started this new Scene Explorer, which can do a lot of things, and in addition to just selecting the objects, so I will just give you a small preview of what it looks like. So we will open the Scene Explorer, which is right here. And then the toolbar on the left-hand side is very similar to what we had in Select by Name dialog box. And so you can go Display None and then choose only the category that we want to be displayed and from which you want to select the object. So right now we want the camera objects. So we say Display Cameras, and your camera objects are displayed. So right now I want to move the target up. So I will select the target, and it automatically selects it in the viewport. So I don't need the Scene Explorer anymore, and today's focus is not on the Scene Explorer. So we will move back to our animation topic. So we will close the Scene Explorer and move the target slightly up. Now I think this looks like a good view for animating, and so we have moved our camera as well as we have moved our target up. So you can just see it in the camera viewport right here. Now we will also apply the safe frames in the camera viewport to see actually what is being seen in the camera. So we will just say Show Safe Frames, and here you can see this is what is seen in the camera in the objects that are being surrounded by this yellow rectangle. They will be displayed while rendering and things like that. So this looks okay, and this looks all the building and everything looks okay. If you want to move and just make the initial field of view slightly different, you can just move the camera here and see how it changes your field of view. So let it be our first the first view of the animation, I think, is set right now, and so we can proceed with our animation now. So down here, as I was talking, this is the time slider, as you can see, and it shows in 000 and 0450, which shows that it is in the SMPTE mode has been selected, the display of the time slider. And this is the track bar, which shows all those where we can set the keyframe. So first of all, we need to set a few animation controls that are available in the groups right here. So beginning from the set keys to all, these are the playback controls and things like that. So we will open the time configuration dialog box to set the time configuration. So the frame rate shows NTSC, and this is the one we want right now. But the time display, instead of SMPTE, let's make it simpler and make it as frames. So we will just click on the frames button here. And as soon as we change it, you can notice here it becomes 0 in the time slider. It becomes 0 by 1350, and also in the track bar hasn't changed yet, but it will change when we hit enter in the animation controls. So if we go in here and we don't want it to show as the animation for a turntable does not need to have such a long animation, having 1350 frames. So instead what we will do, we'll make it shorter and make it 99 frames in total. So we will add 99. And we will hit enter, and as soon as I hit enter, you can see the track bar has changed as well. So it displays 0 to 99 on the track bar, and also the time slider, it shows 0 to 99. Now the time slider, once we are done everything, then I'll show you how to move the time slider and manually. So everything is set here. We will use track bars because we want to set the keys on the track bar virtually, and real time we will leave it as real time. So loop means that it will continue to create a turntable and play it in loops. Like it will never stop it unless you stop it from the playback buttons. And this active viewport only is not being selected, which shows that the animation will be displayed in all the preview of the animation will be displayed in all the 4 viewports right now. So let's say OK for now. And now start the animation, because we have set the animation controls and now options, and now we will start with the animation control. So the first thing is that we want to start the animation by clicking on this auto key right here. So once you click on the auto key, you will notice that it turns red, which shows that it is active, and whatever changes you will make in the viewport will be recorded at that frame now. So the initial frame is at 0, and it shows this initial view in the camera viewport. Also notice that there is a red rectangle encloses the active window. So whichever is the active window will have a red border going around it, which shows that this window is the active window. So let's first of all, so we have to select the let me go back. Before that, I will set a dummy object, because it's always easier to move the camera with the help of a dummy object instead of moving the camera itself. So let me cancel the auto key right here and first put in a dummy object there, use a helper object. So go into the command panel, select helper, and choose dummy here. And then we can set the dummy object around the target. So if we, it should be starting from the target, and we will make a square big enough that will enclose the building. And this is a dummy square that has been created. So it's always easier to move the dummy rather than moving the camera. So if you will move the camera, you will see if I move the camera here, it will sometimes go in and out, like it will zoom in and zoom out, and it won't be stable. So to keep it stable at a stable distance, it is always recommended, and it's a good practice while moving the camera, to use a dummy object to move it. So we will just undo the move, whatever I did, and go and select this dummy object now. So the dummy has been created, but we need to link it to the camera. So whatever movements I make to the dummy object to set in the keyframe will be reflected in the camera, like the camera will move along with the dummy object. And it's always easier to move the dummy object now. So for linking it to the camera, we go into the main toolbar and choose Select and Link. Select the camera, and then as you can notice, when I hover my cursor over the camera, it shows me two rectangles, 2 squares, which shows that it is in the link mode. So starting from the camera, I will drag it over the dummy object. So be careful that you're dragging it on top of the dummy object only. So here you go, and then click on it. So to confirm that I did actually link it to the dummy and not to any other object on the screen, so what I do is I'll just go and select and move, choose the dummy object, and try moving it. And see, the camera will move along with it. So this has been linked properly with the dummy object. The dummy object has been linked properly with the camera. That is why, because we want to move the camera ultimately to set our keyframe. So I'll go undo again and place it at the right location. So this is set now, and the movements will be, the rotation movements will be done on this dummy object rather than on the camera. So that's why I have selected it. Now, as I selected before I created this dummy object, I had already set the time controls in the time configuration dialog box, so we need not do that again. Only set the auto key option now. And now, as we set the auto key option, just be sure that you have selected your dummy object. So how we can do that, we'll just go back into our command panel and choose the modify here, and it shows your dummy object right here in the name and color edit box. So this shows that the dummy object is selected, and we are going to apply the keyframes to the dummy object itself. So the first, because we don't need for a turntable, it needs to be revolved at 360 revolution around its pivot point, which along the z-axis. So we don't need too many keyframes to set in too many keyframes. So we will just set in 3 keyframes in addition to the 0 keyframe, that is the starting point. So we will divide it into 3 equal keyframes. So the first one, actually the second one, we will set it at 33. So we will just drag this slider over to number 33 frame number. So here we are, and at this position, we will rotate the dummy at 120 degrees because we have to get 360-degree rotation. So because we are dividing it into 3 different keyframes, so we will use 120, then 240, and then subsequently 360 will be the last one, which will also coincide with the 0. So we will go here in the main toolbar and select and rotate. So that's what we want to do, and we will rotate it in the z-axis. In the status bar, we will enter minus 120 right there, like so, and then press enter. And as you can see, in all the viewports, you can see that the building has not been rotated. The dummy object has been rotated. Along with it, the camera has been rotated as well. So so that is the purpose. That's what we want. Now the second keyframe has been set at 33. Now let's move the slider bar and drag it over to the 66th frame so that we will set the 3rd keyframe, and then rotate the dummy object, which will in turn rotate the camera by minus 240. So right here, and say enter. So again, the camera has been moved. As you can see here in the top viewport, the camera reached this position, and the building is moving as well because it shows the camera field of view in all the viewports. And the last one that we are going to be adding the keyframe is at the last keyframe, which is the 99th keyframe, and we will move the slider bar there and move this to minus 360. This, why we are entering minus numbers is because I wanted to create an animation which goes in a clockwise direction. If you want to go in a counterclockwise direction, you can use the plus 120 or 240 and 360. So I entered minus 360 and say enter, and you will notice that the dummy object is in its original position, as well as the camera is in its original position too. Now, if we so this creates the animation, all of the animation. Now here we have the slider bar. We can scrub it by moving it manually and see in all the different viewports, and keep an eye specifically on the camera viewport. You can see the animation, how it proceeds. So this is called scrubbing. So you can manually scrub it around, and if you find an error somewhere, you can just modify that or change the settings by going frame to frame, at which frame, what is the position of the camera. So now we'll use a few of the playback settings. So here you have the playback settings. So this one goes 1 frame previous, and this one is the next frame. It goes to the next frame. And we will first move it to the beginning of the animation by clicking on this, and it moves to the beginning of the animation. And then we will use the play animation button to play the animation now. So here we go. As we play the animation, you can see the animation, the turntable animation has been created and is being played in all the viewports. in the camera viewport actually, because we said only the active viewport. So this is being done right now, and notice that the play button here has been changed to a stop button. Now, if I press the stop button, it will stop the animation. We can use the go to the beginning, go to end. Now, again, I will play the animation, and carefully you notice in the camera view, what happens is that it just abruptly, the animation does not look very smooth right now. So what we are going to do is we're going to add linear interpolation at the keyframes to make it more flow more smoothly. So that can be done by first let us stop the animation and then go on the keyframe and right-click on the keyframe. So once you right-click on the keyframe, it has all its different controllers which you can set. So we are using the dummy Z rotation, which we need to change because that is the only rotation that's the only keyframe that we have added right now. So we will click on dummy Z rotation, and it opens this dummy dialog box right here. So it shows the time is 99 frame because it's the key on the 99th frame. And these are the interpolations that we can change. So they show a sine wave kind of a thing, but we want to make them linear. So when we click on this, it opens the flyout, and we will choose the linear interpolation for both in and out here. Now we want to make the same changes to rest of the keyframes as well. So there are two ways you can access the dialog box, either by right-clicking and selecting dummy Z, or you can just simply go into your dummy dialog box and move these small arrow buttons you see here. When you move this arrow, it moves to the third keyframe, this moves to the second keyframe, and this moves to the first keyframe. So we will set the linear interpolation for all the keyframes. So go here and set the linear in and linear out. And for number 2, we will do the same thing, linear in and linear out. And for the number 3 as well, linear in and linear out. And then close the dialog box. I think for the 4th we had already done it, yes. And we'll close the dialog box. And now let's see how the animation looks now. So we will use the play animation button, and as you can see, it has become much smoother. There are no lags, or it doesn't stop anywhere. So this makes it pretty smooth, adding the linear interpolation. You can add different kinds of interpolation. It depends on what you want to show, where you want to put the focus on, where you want to, what you want to focus in the turntable animation. So let's now, for the time being, stop the animation again, and let's go back into our time configuration dialog box. And here you know that the loop has been selected. So what it does is it keeps on rotating the turntable animation till you make a stop. So if we remove this loop and say OK, and then go again, play, it just plays it once, and then it will stop. And that's it. So unless you play the play button again, and then it will complete one rotation, and it will one turntable rotation, and then stop it. So for the time being, we'll go back and just keep it as a loop, and then say OK. And then now we will add a little, add the keyframes, we will add a little bit of a slowdown. Now, right now, you will notice that I don't see any keyframes on my slider bar. Why do I do that? Because the object on which the animation has been added, or the moment which has been recorded on the object, is not selected. So we need to select the dummy object, and here you go. When you select the dummy object, you will see the keyframes at that point. So you can add animations of different sorts on different objects as well, and then play them in conjunction. And if you want to make any changes to a certain animation on a certain object, you need to select that object first so that it displays the keyframes for it. So we go in here and we open the mini curve editor. What it will do is it will replace the time slider as well as the trackbar with the mini curve editor. And here you see that the mini curve editor, I'll move my screen a little bit up here. So you can see the mini curve editor right here. So what it does is, like, it has the rotation on the Z-axis already selected. That's why it shows. So we can move down and choose. We can locate our dummy object. So as you can see, I go into objects and I locate my dummy object and the transforms that I've applied. I have applied the select and rotate transform to it in the animation. And here you go, and these three rotations have been selected and they display in the curve editor. The curve for it has been displayed in the curve editor. So what we'll do in the curve editor is that we will apply a little slowdown at those keyframes. So we will just make it slower. So when it's going over the turntable, it's rotating, the building is being rotated. When it reaches a keyframe, it will slow down. Then it will move at the real time again, and then it will slow down at the second keyframe. So, wherever you wanted to apply the slowdown, you just select that keyframe. So for example, I want to apply it at the second one, which is at the frame 33. So I select it, and it becomes like, it has a white background now, and so it shows that this one is selected. So up here, you can choose the set tangent to slow. This button is set tangents to slow. So I'll apply that. And as you can see in the curve editor, instead of the linear interpolation, it is now slightly curved. So it will just move the animation turntable till here, and then it will slow down slightly here. Similarly, I'll add it slow down at the 66th frame as well, and say set tangents to slow. And similarly, do it at the last one, and say set tangent to slow, and maybe do it at the first one as well. I don't want to leave it alone. So say set tangent to slow. So yeah, I have applied all the set tangents, and then I will close the mini curve editor and then play my animation again. And now keep on watch over the camera viewport and see how it will slow down at that particular moment. So see, at this 33rd level, it slows down. At the 66th, it slows down slightly for a fraction of a second. So, but it still slows it down. So that is how you create. So that's how you create a turntable animation in 3ds Max design. This, as I had mentioned before, you can use the same form, whatever has been learned today or whatever I have taught today can be used for the other flavor of the 3ds Max design, which is the basic version, that is 3ds Max. So I will go back into my presentation now. And so to summarize, in today's demonstration, we created a camera with a target at the object. We created a helper dummy object. We linked the dummy to the camera. We rotated the camera around the building at various keyframes. We modified and smoothened the animation. We played the animation. So this was for today's demonstration. This is what we achieved after looking at the demonstration for today. Now, as I mentioned before, I demonstrated a practice from one of our chapters of the 3ds Max Design 2015 Fundamentals Training Guide, and this is developed by ASCENT. And like other training guides, this training guide has an AOTG branding as well. And this training guide has the typical ASCENT layout where each section has the learning objectives to help you understand what you will be learning in the section. Then at the end of each chapter are the chapter review questions. And these are provided to quickly review and refresh what was learned in the preceding chapter. At the end of the training guide, an appendix is provided that help you locate the exam objectives, which can be used in the that will guide you and help you to prepare for the Autodesk 3ds Max certified exam. The certification topic and the objectives are also listed along its associated section and can be found throughout the training guide. Then there are the instructor tools that are also available with the training guide, and these instructor tools, they provide you with the answers for the chapter review questions that were asked in the training guide itself, and also gives you the suggested timing that is required to complete each chapter in the training guide. Now, these are the list of available titles in the visualization lineup that are offered by ASCENT. So we have the 3ds Max Design 2015 Fundamentals training guide from where I had pulled the practice that I demonstrated for you today. And then also in the visualization lineup is the Navisworks 2015 Essentials training guide and also the Showcase 2015 Fundamentals training guide. With that, I am going to hand you over to Corinne, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about the training guides.
Wonderful. Thank you, Renu. Yes, just to recap, we do have those training guides available in a printed student guide format that you see there on your left. We have it in an ebook format, and as Renu mentioned, we have instructor tools which are really helpful. They're a helpful aid for those who are teaching the class. And all of these products are available for purchase on our secure online e-store, ascentestore.com. So if you go to that next slide, Renu, everyone can see the website there. Perfect. If you'd like to reach out to us, there's our phone number and our email address, feedback@ascented.com. I'd love to hear your feedback on the webcast and also on any other titles, courseware titles that you would like to see developed. And if you're not already following ASCENT on social media, I encourage you to do so. You can follow us on Twitter for the latest courseware releases and any promotions. And if you follow our blog, you'll hear from all of the ASCENT authors where they let us know what the new training guides, what's new in the training guides that they're writing.